Welcome to another video from explainingcomputers.com. Today it is the 9th of May 2024 and I'm starting an experiment in which I'm going to try and do all of my video production in Linux for 2 weeks. Now I want to make it clear this experiment is about far more than saying can we edit video in Linux, which we clearly can. I've done that many times before, not least fairly recently I made a video about the Raspberry Pi 5 edited on the Raspberry Pi 5 in Linux using Kdenlive. Rather, this experiment has got the broader goal of saying, can I find alternatives to all of the Adobe applications I normally use in Windows to make my videos? Can I find alternatives that run in Linux? And that doesn't just mean alternatives to Adobe Premiere as the video editor, but also alternatives to things like Adobe After Effects and Photoshop. And I want to see if I can, over a 2-week period, use these alternative applications to make composites and motion graphics and final videos to the same level of efficiency and quality and speed as I can do using the Adobe applications in Windows. So let's go and get started. Greetings! Here I am at the desk where I'm doing all of my video production during the course of this experiment. It's now 3 days later and things are going rather well. And I thought what I'd do is to initially show you the setup I've got, and then we can delve into a bit more detail in the further segments of this video. So if I press the special button over here, that button like that, we go across to the desktop. And what I did to start this experiment was to give myself a clean install of Ubuntu 2204, not 2404, the latest version I reviewed on my channel fairly recently, but 2204, which some of the software here says it supports, so I thought it was best not to risk using the latest version. And we're running on my i5 test rig. This has an i5-10400 CPU, 16 GB of RAM and a 2 GB GT1030 graphics card. And I do like this old graphics card, not least because it's passively cooled. And I'd make the point that some kind of NVIDIA graphics are highly recommended for what we're doing here in Linux. So what have I got installed on the dock over here? Well, for a start, we've got at the top of the Chromium browser, but after that, we've got 2 potential alternatives to Adobe Premiere, the first one of which is DaVinci Resolve, which is running very nicely here. Let's just run up DaVinci Resolve, show you that's working. Great to see it running in Linux. It comes up reasonably quickly, and let's just show you, I've been doing some editing. Here, for example, is the edit for the latest members-only video. I showed them my new camera. Very simple edit, but it worked absolutely fine in DaVinci Resolve. And just to show you exactly what's going on here, let's go across to the browser. Here is the download page for DaVinci Resolve. In this experiment, I'm using the free version. There is a paid version, DaVinci Resolve Studio, which is about $300 for a lifetime license. But I'm using the free version of Resolve 18.6. I thought I won't try a beta during the experiment. Make sure if you want the free version you download here on the left. And it's worth pointing out that there's only official Linux support for CentOS or Rocky Linux. And so to get things working here, what I did was to use the latest version of the Make Resolve Deb script, which is available here. Fantastic documentation for installing DaVinci Resolve on a Debian-based Linux distro. I'll give you a link to this in the video description. And with that installed, I also made sure I got the latest CUDA drivers installed using this very handy guide from Cherry Servers. I'll link to this too. And that got me a DaVinci Resolve working with no problems at all. This said, I've also decided to test out Lightworks, which I've got running over here. Lightworks is a program I've always thought about, should I really delve much more into Lightworks? The free version of the Lightworks video editor has full functionality but cannot export greater than a 720p resolution. So what I've done for this video, and you can see I've got it working, what I've done for this video, how do I get out? Over there. What I've done for the video is to purchase a month subscription of the Pro version, which we can see over here. So I've paid that to have access to Lightworks for a month. And the Pro version is important because the Pro version gives you lots and lots of features you don't get in the free version, not least massively greater import and export support. So that's why I've purchased a version of Lightworks Pro for this experiment. I've also here got installed Autograph. Now, Autograph's fantastic. Autograph is an alternative to Adobe After Effects. It was only launched in January 2023. It's a layer-based system just like After Effects. Let's just bring something in. What have I got working here? There, for example, is the introduction of a video I've been working on about audio file formats. There's me in the normal composite of me and the graphic in the background, etc. I'm very impressed with Autograph, although it is expensive software. And just to show you that, let's go across back to the web again. And here we are. Here's the page all about Autograph. And if we click on buy, wait for it, it is expensive, as you can see. You can either subscribe annually, where currently it's $28 a month, although for this experiment I purchased a monthly subscription, which is normally $35, although there was a discount code, which is still shown here, although that date is expired, and therefore I paid $17.50 to be using Autograph for a month. And as you probably noticed, there's also a permanent license available. It's an expensive permanent license, and I would point out, as you probably gathered already, this is not a video about free and open source software. It's a video about what it's potentially possible to do in Linux using the best software available. This said, I am using some FOSS applications, not least I've got installed here Inkscape, a massively underrated piece of software. I think I really like Inkscape, and I've also got installed Audacity, which is a sort of alternative to Adobe Audition. It hasn't got the power and the features of Adobe Audition, but it's good for editing audio waveforms. And then finally, I do need an alternative to Adobe Photoshop. And you can't see one of those installed down here. I'm not using GIMP, I'm actually using a web-based application called Photopea. And here is Photopea running in my browser with a composite I've been building up for a video I've been working on. And the great thing about Photopea is that it works absolutely perfectly with PSD files and with text and layers in a manner that sadly doesn't work as well in GIMP. And if you want to know more about Photopea and other online Photoshop alternatives, I covered them in great detail in a recent video. And I would point out I have subscribed to Photopea to get rid of the advertising. We click on account here, you'll see that it knows who I am, and I've paid $15 for premium access to Photopea. Right, it's now Wednesday the 15th of May, about halfway through this experiment, and things are still going very well. And I've been editing lots of video here in DaVinci Resolve. This is the edit for the video we're actually working on right now. What you're currently watching this video, I'm currently making it. Very confusing. And if we also go to the project manager down there, we can see over here that I've finished editing the video about audio formats. This has all been completed. Again, in DaVinci Resolve, as you can see, here's a final explaining computed edit. And it's been a very nice experience editing in DaVinci Resolve. It's got a very good feel to it. It's just a nice experience working in this software. And a lot of the visuals here have been created in Autograph, which we'll look at in a second, but there's also various composites here produced in other packages. If we go across, for example, to Inkscape, there you can see graphics being created there. And I've also been working a lot in Photopea. Here's a composite of lots of these graphics being put together. I can change all the bits of stuff there, probably wrong now, but anyway, something like that. Let's turn that one off. And I found it very easy to work with Inkscape and Photopea and also DaVinci Resolve in exactly the same way I normally work with Premiere Pro and Illustrator and Photoshop. So this has very much been a success. It's also worth noting that DaVinci Resolve really has been excellent. I've said that already, but it really has been. It's been totally stable. I've had no crashes at all. Although it is worth noting that format support, and in particular format support here in Linux, is not as good as in most other video editors. And just to show you that, if we go across to the web again and go to this support document from Blackmagic Design, and we just scroll down here a little bit, we go down, I think it is there we are. We can see that H.264 and H.265 are not supported for decoding or encoding in the free version of DaVinci Resolve, although they are supported in the studio version, although you have to have NVIDIA graphics for encoding. And if we go down to the audio section here for DaVinci Resolve in Linux, we can see that if we scroll up a bit, where exactly do I want to be? Here it is. We can see that, for example, AAC audio is not supported encoding or decoding in any version of DaVinci Resolve for Linux. Now, for me personally, this has not been an issue, as almost everything I shoot and capture is in Apple ProRes format. Every single clip here is in Apple ProRes format. There must be something off a camera here somewhere. I'm sure there is. Did I use a camera? I did for that shot. That shot was shot in Apple ProRes. Everything else here has been rendered in Apple ProRes. I was shot in Apple ProRes for the start and end of the video. And so I've had no problems bringing in my clips, but I do know if you're using consumer sort of focused cameras, you might have a problem bringing the footage into DaVinci Resolve, particularly the free version in Linux. And if I personally decide to migrate all my video production to Linux, I'm sure I'll purchase the studio version, the paid version of DaVinci Resolve, which will get around some of the format support issues. This said, here in the free version, when I came to deliver this video, I had to deliver it in a QuickTime in a MOV container using MPEG-4 video, rather than outputting an MP4 as I normally would. Although this worked, it's been uploaded to YouTube with no issues. Now, before we move on from video editors, let's turn to Lightworks, which here in the Pro version has very wide media format support. Like DaVinci Resolve, Lightworks is a professional editor, and indeed it's been used to edit major Hollywood movies. And so I included Lightworks in this experiment to assess it as a potential alternative to DaVinci Resolve. However, I've found parts of the workflow to be absolutely maddening for a modern video editor. For example, I cannot find a way to show keyframes in the timeline. Here, for example, I've added a transform effect that animates the top clip, like that, as we can see, but the keyframes I've set to do this are only viewable up here in this panel and not down on the timeline. And I have, for example, even done things like gone into settings, where I've checked that show keyframes is set to yes. It's definitely set to yes. I still can't see any keyframes. And in comparison, if we go across to DaVinci Resolve, here we are, set exactly the same thing up, and oh look, works the same way, but we can see the keyframes. We're even snapping to these keyframes, and we can also go in and move these keyframes around in the timeline, which is very handy. You often need to work with keyframes directly and being able to see everything in the timeline, including your audio. And maybe I'm missing something here in Lightworks. It's possible, but I have spent hour after hour after hour plowing through the Lightworks documentation. It does so many things differently to other video editors. I've watched loads and loads of Lightworks training videos. I've not seen anything to suggest that you can actually see keyframes in the timeline. And so, for this reason and several others, Lightworks is not a video editor I would choose, although I am pleased to have found this out firsthand by trying out the Pro version as part of this experiment. Greetings! It's now Tuesday, May 21st, and I thought we'd take a closer look at Autograph, which really is a beautiful piece of software and the only true alternative to Adobe After Effects I've ever come across that can run on a Linux system. Like After Effects, Autograph offers layer-based 2D and 3D compositing. So here this shot is based on 3 layers, as we can see, a background, on the top there is a caption doing its thing like that, and then in the middle there is a green screen element of me. I'll just solo that like that, and if I open up this layer and what's been done to it, you can see I've added a modifier and effect which is called color difference key. If I turn that off, you can see it was a green screen element, it's now clear, it's now got a matte on it, and if we take off the solo on that, we can see the final composite. And of course, it is perfectly possible to make a simple composite like this in a video editor. And indeed, I previously made an Explaining Computers episode about doing so in DaVinci Resolve. However, in DaVinci Resolve, compositing is node-based, and certainly for the kind of things I do, a dedicated layer-based compositor is preferable. Now, in common with After Effects, Autograph can be thought of as being a bit like a video version of Photoshop, where you could animate and otherwise manipulate the layers. And indeed, here in Autograph, as in After Effects, we can easily create a motion graphics composite from a PSD file. So let's do that. Let's click on Import Files, add a sequence, etc. Let's bring in this, which is a PSD file from a previous SSD video, like that. Nothing will happen, it'll just sit there. But if I go and click and I create a composition from PSD layers, there we are. There's a composition created from that PSD file. And here there are various layers that will be animated in the final shot. There's a layer there that does the highlights that would be brought up and down using opacity keyframes. we've got on the top some electrons here, some more electrons down there. They will be animated. We could go into here. We could go to transform. We could go to position, move them down into the gate, something like that. And this is how I often produce shots for Explaining Computers videos, creating something initially in Photoshop as a still composite, bring it into a layer-based compositor, and then output some animation. And this is why it was important for me in this experiment to have a very good alternative to Adobe Photoshop that could handle PSD files. And that's why I've been working with Photopea rather than GIMP, because it is very good at handling PSD files. Here is exactly the PSD document we were just looking at in Autograph, and here it is again back in Autograph. You can see how I often work across different packages to make parts of my videos. Talking of videos, during this experiment I've used Autograph to produce the start and end of the videos as we've just been seeing, but I've also used it to produce things like titles. Let's go down here to recent projects and bring in, there we are, get to the right place. Come on Christopher, get it right. Let's bring in, for example, the intertitles for this particular video. We won't save what I've been messing around with here. Let's not create chaos. There we are. This is the intertitle for Lightworks, the last segment of the video. And we've got different segments here. For example, what's that system and setup, etc. And again, this is simple stuff. You could do it in other ways, but it's far quicker to do it in something like Autograph and a layer-based compositor, where everything can be automated and set up and done, well, just really quickly. And I also in Autograph did all the bullet points which I used in the recent video about audio formats. Where are they gone? Audio format bullets are down there. There we are. You can see they're all sitting here in the system. Going backwards now, but they'll come up a little bit like that. Loads of things set up. We can see whatever they all are. There's another one, which obviously is not as long as that one because it hasn't all come up. Another one down there. You could say I've just been using this incredibly nice software to produce something that looks like PowerPoint, and to a large extent that is true. But I often use a layer-based compositor for lots of different kinds of 2D and 3D graphics. As regular viewers will know, I often have 3D graphics in my videos, and the first time ever I've been able to use a layer-based compositor here in Linux that can do this kind of thing, something I've only ever been able to do before in After Effects on a Windows system. Now, officially it's worth noting that Autograph is only supported on Linux if you're running an Ubuntu or Red Hat distro. I'll show that over here in System Requirements. There we are. And indeed this is a key reason that I've been running Ubuntu for this experiment. And even so, I have had some stability issues with Autograph. Not massive ones, but I have had some freezes and some crashes, although I've not lost any work. And therefore, overall, during this Linux video production experiment, Autograph has been a big success. Greetings! It's now Thursday, May the 23rd, and this experiment is now coming to an end. And as you probably gathered, the experiment has certainly proved the point that today it is now possible to make videos in Linux using credible alternatives to Adobe applications. And after many years of trying, this is the first time I've been able to say that. To summarise what we've learned, today most people with a 16GB or more NVIDIA GPU PC can now edit for free in DaVinci Resolve, or for $295 perpetual in DaVinci Resolve Studio, although you may hit issues with media support if you use consumer video formats. Meanwhile, Photopea can be used as a Photoshop alternative for free or without advertising from $50 a year. Inkscape and Audacity are also free, but Autograph costs from $28 a month or $945 perpetual, plus taxes if, like me, you need an After Effects alternative. Now, to provide some context to all of this, Adobe Creative Cloud currently costs $59.99 a month, or in the UK, says he looking at his notes, £56.98 including taxes. And what this means is that for me personally, here in the UK, for the cost of 2 years of Adobe Creative Cloud, I could buy a perpetual license for DaVinci Resolve Studio and Autograph, and over 4 years worth of advertising free use of Photopea. And of course, at the end of that period of time, or after I paid those fees, I wouldn't have to continuously pay. I could use that perpetual software forever. And even with Photopea, if you stop paying, you can still use it. You just have some advertising down the side. And so I like that, the fact it is now possible, not just practically, but financially, to move from the Adobe applications and Windows to using other alternatives in Linux. So I'm sure you're asking now, am I going to transition all of my video production to Linux? And the answer is, right now, I'm not. And for two reasons. The first one is that at the moment, the non-subscription version of the Adobe applications I'm currently running, I think it's version 5 or 5.5, I can't remember, but one of the versions just before they brought in the subscription system, that software is still running absolutely fine on the offline Windows 7 PC I use for all my video production. But I do know that system won't run forever. Eventually I'm going to have to make a choice and do something else. And the experiment I've just done means I've got it optioned. It's great to have actually had a couple of weeks using something different applications in Linux, and it all works. And the second reason I'm not going to shift to Linux for all my video production just yet is that I also rely on a package called Lightwave 3D for all my 3D modeling and rendering animation, things like that. And currently there isn't a version of Lightwave for Linux. However, Lightwave got a new owner back in 2023. It had been in the doldrums for a while, but now it's got a new owner, lots of new development, and so there could well be a version of Lightwave for Linux. Let's hope fairly soon. That'll make a big difference in terms of me making a transition. Oh, and the final thing I wanted to show you, I forgot to show it earlier. Let's just flick across to Linux for a final time and look at Autograph. One of the other great things about Autograph is if we go to Edit and we go to Preferences, we can scale the interface in real time to anything we like. Either like that, or we can go in here and say, put a value like that, and then everything is scaled. That's so great. I really think that every application on the planet should have that type of scaling capability. But now that's it for another video. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, please press that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And I hope to talk to you again very soon.